Well, we're going to say team sport goats because shout out Serena. I'm not even going to include her in this. For team sports, is he the goat of all goats?
He's pretty close, right? Like I would say him and MJ are the two greatest goats that we have ever seen up until this point. But I will say I think Brady has him in Super Bowls, obviously, but I think MJ still him in like cultural relevance. Jordan's shoe game, what Jordan did for entertainment brand of athletes. Everyone is still chasing him from that standpoint.
And you went not just with Gronk as your fave from yesterday. I believe that you had some Arizona Wildcat love in there too.
Yeah, look, there's Wildcats littered everywhere, Rachel, everywhere. Wherever you see success, you're going to see Wildcats.
That's amazing. I know that producer Danny feels the same way. Welcome to The Jump, friends. I'm Rachel Nichols. I'm alongside NBA champ Richard Jefferson. 2008 Finals MVP Paul Pierce is going to be joining us soon. Coming up, Kevin Durant cleared to return to the Nets lineup on Friday. But are the 3 games he will miss due to COVID-19 contact tracing something, nothing, or everything? We will discuss that in a moment. Also, Warriors coach Steve Kerr says star players are, quote, gifted calls, not by the officials, but by the league. Richard and Paul will give me their reaction to that as well. First, though, it is always a little bit of a weird, flat feeling the day after the Super Bowl, but never fear, the NBA is here for you. Do you like the story of Tom Brady pushing the limits of age and time to win another ring? All good. The NBA also has an old dude trying to bolster his GOAT credentials with more hardware. Are you following along with Deshaun Watson as he tries to get traded? Hey, in the NBA, we already know how the big trade involving the frustrated Houston superstar turns out. Do you agree with the NFL's decision to cancel its All-Star Pro Bowl for COVID reasons? Well, in the NBA, never mind on that one. Anyway, the point is, even in a pandemic, it is already turning into another breakneck season in the association. And for those of you who have had your attention split by football over the past few months, here is a brief timeline of what you have missed so far. December 1 kicked off the weirdest preseason ever after the shortest offseason in NBA history. The Lakers and Heat were openly exhausted. Giannis was debating his supermax with the Bucks, and the entire league was engaged in a game of Where's Waldo as James Harden kept showing up everywhere except Rockets training camp. The Clippers gave Paul George a pile of money, which he vowed to earn.
I owe him a trophy. That's what I owe this organization. This is a window that we're trying to capture, and my commitment and my job is to try to bring a title here.
Meanwhile, out east, Kyrie Irving was doing his best Phil Jackson impression, burning sage in Boston Garden. Why not? While Kevin Durant let everyone know he was indeed still Kevin Durant. And coronavirus showed it is still coronavirus. I don't think we're in a bubble anymore, Toto. We saw the Trailblazers have to shut down their practice facility. In Milwaukee, Giannis finally put pen to paper, breaking the hearts of front office execs from Miami to Dallas. And then right before Christmas, opening night, the Lakers got their rings. We had the people of Seattle rejoicing with revived talk of expansion. Master P and Baron Davis offered to buy Adidas. Becky Hammon made history. The Rockets' John Wall showed he is still John Wall after 2 years on the shelf. Woo! Yeah. Games were postponed due to COVID. Then more games were postponed. Then still more, prompting the NBA to stop allowing players to have outside visitors when on the road. The Wizards stopped being able to even practice. Kyrie stopped coming to games. The Sixers offered Ben Simmons for James Harden, but the Rockets instead dealt him to Brooklyn, creating one of the most potent offensive teams of all time. Victor Oladipo was dealt to the Rockets. Kyrie came back. The Nets defense, not quite so much. Steph Curry balled out. So did Bradley Beal, Nikola Jokic, CJ McCollum, and Joel Embiid. LeBron turned a Cavaliers employee taunting him into a 46-point night of revenge. Damian Lillard hit a game-winning crazy buzzer beater again.
5 seconds left. Covington trying to get it to Dame. He puts it on the floor. Step back 3 from Dame.
Oh, and Derrick Rose is back in New York again. No, really. So there, you are all caught up. Just wait until you see what happens next. We've got Paul Pierce joining us now. Welcome into you, Paul. And let's start with you. Who do you think is the most intriguing storyline in the NBA this season, Mr. Pierce?
Well, I have to go with the All-Star game right now because, you have your top players talking about they're not excited about it. And I hear guys like LeBron, Antetokounmpo, these guys are major players in our game. And then I'm finding out that they have an option if they want to go or not without being fined. So, that's a big concern for me, one of our biggest games of the year.
Well, my number one thing that I think, for this season is really the honeymoon stories. Right. We see, we know what Giannis can do in the regular season. We know a Doc Rivers led team. 76ers are playing great. Joel Embiid is having one of his best seasons ever, literally one of the top 2 or 3 guys when it talks about MVP. But we know that Doc Rivers and a Doc Rivers led team is going to be judged by the postseason. We look at Paul George, and this guy is, after a struggle postseason last year, he's having one of the most epic seasons. He's averaging 20 points a game on 50, 40, 90. That's only been done by like 5 guys in NBA history, and it was done by Larry Bird twice. But everyone in Clipper Nation knows the only thing that matters is how you play in the postseason. So between Giannis, between a Doc Rivers-led team, and between Paul George, it's like, hey, these regular seasons are great. Everyone is waiting for the postseason to see how these guys perform. That's the most intriguing story for me this season.
Do you guys feel that now that we're up and running, this really is a season? There were some questions before we started of empty arenas, right, with no fans, and schedules were going to be weird, and guys were going to be coming in and out in the lineup. I still feel like there has been some really exceptional basketball, and the NBA is continuing. Richard, do you get that vibe? You're calling so many games right now.
No, I do get that vibe. You look at having Steph Curry back and having the Warriors be relevant again. It's just great basketball, seeing him play and do what we've always known. Obviously LeBron and AD are right there at the top of the West where they should be. But again, it's those little sub-stories. Again, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, can they take that next little jump in their second year in Clipperland? There's been so many great stories. Even the young players, LaMelo Ball, Halliburton in Sacramento, which I really think has an opportunity to win Rookie of the Year after sliding in the draft. So there's been great stories all year long, and I think they're only going to kind of build as the season progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right on the nose, Richard. Just seeing Steph back out there go for 57 the other day, watching Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie team up, these are definitely intriguing stories. And, hey, what's going to happen with the Clippers? Can they bounce back from last year's debacle? And so the games have definitely been exciting. I'm excited to see who's going to make that first-time jump to the All-Star game also. But it's definitely been, despite the circumstances, been an exciting season.
All right, so if you've had your attention split by football, we welcome you back to being all NBA all the time. All right, guys, something a little bit, well, let's not kid ourselves, a lot harder to talk about. When someone dies suddenly, it is such a shock, such a tragedy, it can be hard to see anything else. That is what it felt like last night when we got word about Pedro Gomez. Everything turns pitch black. It was hard to breathe. Not Pedro. No. Not one more in this year of never-ending death. Not one of the kindest, funniest, smartest, sweetest, most accomplished men that has graced your television over the past couple decades. Pedro covered more than 25 World Series, more than 20 All-Star games, and won all sorts of awards, but those are just the numbers. As the Gomez family shared in a statement on Sunday saying, quote, Pedro was far more than a media personality. He was a dad, loving husband, loyal friend, coach, and mentor. He was our everything, his kids' biggest believer. ESPN President Jimmy Pitaro added this, quote, Pedro was an elite journalist at the highest level, and his professional accomplishments are universally recognized. More importantly, Pedro was a kind, dear friend to us all. Our hearts are with Pedro's family and all who love him at this extraordinarily difficult time. Gomez was the son of Cuban parents who came to Miami just before his birth. He was fiercely and rightfully so proud of them. And when in 2016 he accompanied the Tampa Bay Rays on a trip to Havana, he brought the ashes of his father and brother to scatter there at the family home. I remember talking to him after he got home from that trip. It was a great conversation, but then again, they all were with Pedro. He and I were actually hired here at ESPN within months of each other, and ESPN can be a place that's hard to navigate. So we had a lot of talks, a lot of texts back and forth as we found our way. I knew then how lucky I was to have him have my back, have that friendship that would go on to span more than 17 years. So today, that is what I am trying to remember. All of the amazing